another episode of Alumni Journeys, and welcome to everybody in the Cerritos College family. I am your host, Parimal Rohit. I am talking to you guys from Austin, Texas, and welcome to everybody that's here today. Looking forward to our next conversation. And thank you to Cerritos College Foundation for, again, allowing for this series to continue. Matthew Harms, who is with the foundation, is allowing us to have this conversation once a month. So thank you, Matthew, for allowing us to do this on a monthly basis. This has been a great journey so far, so thank you for that. We're going to have a conversation today with another alumni, but before we get to him, I just want to make one quick announcement. Him and I will have a Q&A, but at the end of the Q&A, we'll allow people who are here on the call today to ask their own questions. So if you have a question, just be sure to toss it over to the chat box, which will be on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have a question, toss it in there, and I will be sure that it's asked. So definitely do that when you get a chance. So with that, let's get into today's conversation. Again, I am Parimal Rohit. I am Cerritos College class of 95. And today we are talking with Antonio Prieto, who is Cerritos College class 98. Give me a few minutes, indulge me here on his resume. So I'll tell you what he's done. And then after that, we'll talk to Antonio about his life at Cerritos College and what he's done since. So Antonio is a first-generation Latino, and he's the first in his family to attend college. Antonio graduated from Cerritos College in 1998. He earned an associate's degree in engineering. After that, he would go on to the California State University of Long Beach, where in 2001, he earned his Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering in Comm Systems. And in 2004, he went to USC, where he earned his Master's of Science in Electrical Engineering and Comm Systems. Now, Antonio was born in Mexico in the state of Zacatecas, and he immigrated to the United States at the age of 18. He had a plan originally to come here and do manual labor, and then realizing the benefits of education, he started to enroll in high school at the age of 16, 11th grade, and he would then move on to Cerritos College. He does credit the college with preparing him for the skills he needed to move on to a four-year university and eventually landing a job in aerospace. While here at Cerritos College, he completed the Scholars Honors Program, and he worked as a math tutor, also had a summer job on campus through the EOPS program. Now he is at Northrop Grumman, where he is a satellite systems engineer. He's worked on several teams and programs. He's helped guide satellite communication systems and classified projects for the company. He's currently an assistant department manager in the Space Systems Engineering Integration Center. So, Antonio, this is quite the great resume here. I am obviously impressed. I mean, you know, this just makes everybody at Cerritos College proud for one, and it makes me feel like I need work to catch up to you. So, congratulations on what you've done so far. But let's go back to the beginning. I actually wanted to start with your pre-US life, and you came here at the age of 16, left Zacatecas in Mexico and came to the United States. Tell us let's start with what that experience was like. What was the reason to come to the US, and just walk us through what that journey was like, coming across the border, starting a new life here. What city did you come into when you came here? Just walk us through what that experience was like.
Oh, great question. So thank you for taking me back to the pre-beginning of Cerritos College. So yes, I am the oldest brother of a family of 5, and my dad was a migrant worker, so he would work here in the U.S. for about 10 months of the year, and then he would go back to Mexico for 2 years, and then do the cycle over and over again. I only met my dad for like 2 months, in a calendar year. So I was very impressed with the abilities that my dad has as a very resourceful, proactive, jack of all trades individual. So I learned how to fix anything just by viewing him and watching him do it for like 2 months. And when I became 16 years old, my dad had petitioned us through the whole paperwork process to come to the U.S. And when I became 16, my paperwork went through, and that's how I came. So as the older brother, I was brought by my dad, and as the older brother, but the natural intention is, oh, you are now of a working age, so sure, come and join me. And I worked my first summer the day after I arrived here, I went to work at my dad's nursery as a gardener. So for me, that was like the beginning of my new life. I'm gonna do manual labor. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do this, and this is it. And then somehow during that time, it was 1993 when the economy was not in its best shape. A lot of people were losing their houses, and the economy was going bad. So the selling plants and trees, it wasn't probably the biggest priority in people's minds. Buying all this nice landscaping stuff. So there was not a lot of work, and because there were not a lot of new things to do at my dad's job, I was only able to hold that job for the summer. So my dad is like, well, my boss says we can continue to hire you, but since you are still a minor, then maybe you can go to high school. So that's how it all started. Out of chance, and I went back to high school for 1 year. The deal is that Antonio, you're going to go to school for 1 year, and next year when the job situation improves, you come and join me full time. And oh my goodness, that 1 year was like my best year ever. I view it as you tell someone you're gonna cross this desert, there's some water here or whatever. Take what you need because you're gonna have to cross it. So I was kind of taking as much as I could. I took it all in. I was asking questions, learning, teaching things on my own. I was obviously starting at the lowest ESL class with the lowest ESL class. But every 3 months, I was transferring to the next class, the next level, because I caught up to the level of anybody, and the class was too slow. So they would put me in the next class, and then in 3 months later, I caught up to their level. And the same thing with the math classes. So I was able to convince the teachers to allow me to go to the next level, because in my mind, this is my only year, and I want to learn as much as I can, and this class is too slow.
So what high school is this at?
I started for a few months at GAR High School.
GAR, okay.
And then I transferred to Artesia because we moved to another city.
Okay.
And Artesia was closer, and I went to Artesia. And so the year ended in my mind. Okay, I was kind of saying goodbye to my teachers, and I told them that I wasn't going to come back the following year because that was the deal. And they were begging me to continue, like at least get your high school diploma. But I don't need it. I need to go back to work. I want to support my family. So I remember.
So you were doing this at 11th grade, and so this was at the end of 11th grade.
Yes, towards the end of the 11th grade, I was just gonna call it quits, and so that morning when I had this brief conversation with my teachers, they kind of said, Antonio, it's been years that we haven't seen a dedicated student like yourself. Please don't drop out. Continue, get your high school diploma, at least get your diploma. So I recall that I went back to my dad that day and I told Dad, you know what? They're telling me that I should return to school, that I at least to get a high school diploma. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, my dad is like probably like, well, that's not the agreement we had, right? But then he quickly realized, he kind of gave me the answer. You know what? If you go back to school, you're probably going to be able to get a better job in a warehouse, probably driving a forklift with a license. So you're probably going to be better off. And then my dad is super organized. So he looked at his budget and said, well, because I came with him, he brought me in to start to save some money, but the rest of the family remained in Mexico. So the deal was that I would allow him to save some money so that he could rent a bigger house and do the whole transition and start anew with the new family. Since that didn't, now that I was going to go back to school, he said, well, let's wait for 1 more year. And he was super conservative. He wanted to save money for having a better, more margin, as we call it in engineering, to have more margin in his savings. And so I went back to school for 1 more year. And I did the same thing. I was asking questions, learning as much as I can. But that senior year, I came across the idea of college because I overheard conversations from other students that they got accepted, that they're going to these schools and that. And that kind of gave me the idea of maybe it's possible. And then I read something on the newspaper about an individual who went to school, and the headline said something like, it was an engineer from Motorola. I forgot the name of the individual, but the story goes that this individual went to school with an English-Spanish dictionary in one hand and an engineering book in the other hand. And that story kind of stuck in my head that, of course, I related to it, like, wait a minute, I like engineering. Maybe it's possible that people who don't speak the language can go to school. So that kind of opened my eyes to start observing opportunities and possibilities. And I began the conversation with other people. The first option that was presented to me was the military, which, because of course the military does a very good job at recruiting people in the high school, so they were the first ones to show up, and those were the first ones that I talked to. And yeah, they actually painted a very nice picture for me, and I was very close to signing up. But then at the same time, I came across other recruiters, in particular one from Cerritos College, who gave me the opportunity to open my eyes about more possibilities and scholarships and things like that. And that's how it all began. But then remember, at this time, I'm in my senior year, and the deal was that I was only going to go to school for just one more year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to this recruiter, and I got the FAFSA application for financial aid. I got many pamphlets, all the resources that I could find. And I go to my dad, and I tell him that, Dad, you know what, there's this option here of potentially going to school, and there are scholarships based on need and GPA, and I have a lot of need and a very good GPA, so that's the perfect combination.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the colleges offers these resources, and my dad was kind of cautious because that summer, he was definitely going to bring the rest of the family. So he was very quiet. He never said no to me, which is wonderful. And I remember I just said, Dad, let me just go along. And if there's ever a day when you're having a hard time trying to make a payment, I'll just quit my school and find a full-time job. Besides, if I have some college classes, that's going to make me more marketable in the workplace, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the deal with us. And so I signed up for school. Cerritos College was a great resource for me. They, like I said, they went out to our local schools. They paved the way. They offered me a summer job, the best thing ever. I recall the minimum wage was like $4 or something like that.
And this is in the mid 1990s, so that time it was a lot different. Yeah, the minimum wage was a lot lower than it is now.
Yeah,
so
and then
start there. Here you are. It's now 1995. You're probably closer to 18 now. You're taking your first classes at Cerritos College. What's going through your mind now? I mean, why are you here at Cerritos College? What do you want to do? What is your vision? I mean, you talk about maybe taking time off to help your dad, but obviously you also have an agenda as well. What was your if this thing were to work out in entirety, where did you see yourself going?
Now, going to school, I looked at all the possibilities, all the things that I could do, and I knew that engineering, at that time, my impression was that engineering had the least amount of English, and I was not a good writer. I still have a lot of problems with the spelling and grammar. My brain is not hardwired for those courses, so I'm more systematic and logical and mathematical than memorizing things. And so it had the least amount of English, so I was a great fixer. I learned how to fix things. I was fascinated by how things work. So my natural tendency was, and then I look at the salaries of engineers, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to go for engineering. Mm-hmm. So that was my goal in life, was I'm going to take some classes just in case. I'm going to go in that direction. But I was totally open to learn. But at this time, I had this very futuristic, very hopefully, wishful thinking of maybe one day I will become an engineer. But if not, I will be taking some classes that will prepare me for whatever comes next. So that was my attitude. I applied myself to the best that I could, because I was taking it like one semester at a time. This semester, I have my little scholarships here, grants from the government, plus some part-time work study that I had. So it allowed me to go to school for one semester. And that's how I kind of did it, one semester at a time, but paved in a particular way that it would eventually make me an
Sure.
engineer.
Sure. You also mentioned that the college had given you resources. And I want to ask that in two ways. Like, what resources did Cerritos College give you to prepare for one semester at a time to get you somewhere? And what resources did Cerritos College give you to kind of get yourself immersed into your new life? I mean, you'd only been here at this point for 2 or 3 years, and you talked about, learning English and that stuff. So how did Cerritos College prepare both for your profession and to help your personal life become more immersive?
Yeah, I was in survival mode, so immediately that summer job was awesome. It allowed me to take my classes, ace my classes because I was working in school. Then I took a semi-independent class
Mm-hmm.
that I regretted the first week because, oh, semi-independent, I have an instructor, I'm going to do it on my own. But that actually strengthened my way of teaching myself.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I became an instructor, and for the next 3 years that I was at Cerritos, I was working at that lab, so they gave me work study. So for me, that I look at it as a very wonderful resource.
Okay.
The
Okay.
other great resource were the EOPS program and the great counselors that I was always going and bothering to ask questions.
Okay. Let's stick on that real quick because this is one question that was submitted. Since you brought up EOPS, this is one question that was submitted to us. And the question is, how did the EOPS program at Cerritos help you get through your time at the college?
If it wasn't because of the program, I would have never gone to Cerritos, period. It was the first step in a series of steps, a very important first link. It was through the EOPS program. It was the outreach, the summer reach program. They went out, they found me, they convinced me, and they brought me, and they told me what to do. I remember that one of the assignments for the summer class was they taught us how to leverage office hours. One of the assignments is go talk to each of your professors and get to know them at the human level, personal level, because they are human beings too. And don't be afraid of them. And yeah, so I did that. I was very afraid at first, but I guess I managed to do a good job because I ended up doing it for the rest of my life.
Okay. And now your answer here leads us to another question, which was also submitted, and this is right on point. Which classes were most difficult for you, and how did you confront the difficulty in order to master the course material?
Oh, very good question. I kind of mentioned that for one of the reasons I picked engineering is because it had the least amount of reading and English and writing. So for me, that was my weakest point. Grammar still kills me. It makes no sense to me why someone decided that this is the structure that you're going to follow, and it makes no sense. And anyway, the point is that because English was my weakest point, guess what I did? I enrolled myself in the Scholars Honors Program precisely because it was going to force me to dig deeper, to do extra research papers, and to synthesize all the information in a way that it makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, those classes were difficult, but it was through a lot of perseverance and perspiration and effort that I managed to get A's and prepare, and they helped me. And later now as a systems engineer, where it's all about communications and organizations and working with people, I think that if it hadn't been for those classes, I would have been in a greater disadvantage.
Right. So now here you are. Let's fast forward a few years now. You've now finished at Cerritos. You moved on to Cal State Long Beach. You move on to USC. Now that you're at Long Beach State and later at USC, you're building momentum towards your career. So walk us through now the challenges that you had at those levels, at the bachelor's and master's level, and how that prepared you to then lay a career out in engineering.
Wow, many interesting questions, and I had like 10 different answers, and they all disappeared. Can you ask the question again? Sorry.
So yeah, to ask the question again. So here you are. You're now out of Cerritos College. You're back at now. You're getting your bachelor's. You're getting your master's. Walk us through now the process of going through those programs. How challenging was it to be at Cal State Long Beach now? How challenging was it at USC? And then what did you learn from your education there, which then gave you the tools to succeed in your career?
I would say, yeah, very good questions. So it was dedication. I learned to look at the possibilities, my abilities. If I go back to my who I was or who at that time, if I looked at my weaknesses, I would have been afraid and scared of trying new things. But it was the possibilities. So for me, my brain is wired in a different way. My wife says that it's not the normal way that the people are wired. I'm always looking at possibilities and looking at things that could happen well beyond what I see in front of me. So that's why for extrapolating from Cerritos College to Cal State Long Beach and later to USC is that I knew that it was part of the job that I needed to get done. And in the process, I started to look for resources and whatever was at hand that would help me to move forward. So it was that proactive, go-getter mentality that allowed me to ask for help. I learned to ask for help. When in doubt, ask for help. So everywhere I go, I ask the stupid questions and I get the answers and I move forward.
Okay. Maybe what you just said is the answer to the next question, which was also submitted, but maybe you could add some more perspective. But the question is this: did you ever experience doubt in your own capabilities throughout your education? And if so, what tools did you use to combat this doubt to push forward?
Wow, doubt.
Yeah, tough question. Sorry.
Yeah. No. It's a great question because now I know what doubt means. But if I go back to before, it was the capabilities and doubt in my mind were replaced by possibilities. Mm-hmm. So there was a very distant possibility in the future, and it got me curious, and it inspired me, and I just went for it. Against all of the odds, against anything that was in front of me. It got my attention and it allowed me to move forward. So the concept of doubt, yes, there's a problem. I kind of approach it as problem and solution, right? I have doubt, but the doubt is because I don't understand it and I start looking at it and I get more clarity and then I get my questions answered and if not, I keep asking for help or finding resources. And so that's how I kind of conquer the doubt. But then at the end of the day, there's doubt of the future, right? Mm-hmm. And the best antidote for that is hope and faith and hard work. I learned through time that if you do a very good job today, and the future is going to be much better. And if I go back to my entire life, and I kind of learned that from my dad, that whatever you do, just do a good job, right? And mm-hmm. I saw him doing that.
Yeah, so, wow, great. Yeah. I want to get to some of the more upper level questions. All right. So let's transition now to your master's degree and then also your career. Here's another question for you. Would you say a master's degree is required in your career? And at what point did you gain employment in your career, in your desired career?
Let's see, communication. Yes. I was hired as a communications systems engineer for the communications center. Mm-hmm. And it's a very specialized group. And for that, when I graduated, it was required to have a master's. Mm-hmm. And in fact, when I was hired, in my job offer, they added that to accept the offer for the center, I was required to complete a master's degree within 2 years at USC. So for me, that was like, perfect, sign me up, I'll take it. We'll see. Yeah. So yes, it's required. Right now, the rule, it has been modified, mm-hmm. Primarily because of the cost of higher education. It is mm-hmm. kind of difficult for companies to fund master's programs at universities that's expensive private universities. But there are flexibilities. Our program offers a lot of work study or no work study, what do you call it? Educational assistant packages to help students to complete a master's while they're still working. But back then we had a very full-blown fellowship program that in 2 years we could complete a master's. So yes, it was required, and right now it's encouraged. Okay.
I want to get to one fun question before I get to a couple of questions on advice. The fun question is this. I hope you get the reference. The question is, what is the future of electrical engineering will we ever develop a flux capacitor like the one in Back to the Future?
Back to the Future. Okay, I'll start with the easy question on that one.
But
So
that violates the laws of causality.
that's another good answer. So it's impossible. It's science fiction, right? Thanks, Austin, for saving me here. Uh, Electrical engineering, it is a very robust field, and I really encourage people to consider. You see it everywhere in this technology. Electricity, energy has shaped the future, and it will continue to shape the future. So and then it has many important fields, and it's great. Now for the second part is more of the science fiction. No comment.
No comment. Okay, fair enough. All right. So, being the first in your family to attend and graduate from college, did you have the financial and emotional support for your college endeavor? And what advice would you give to someone who's also a first generation Latino student currently pursuing a career in electrical engineering?
You know, for any career, be curious, ask questions, ask for help. Yes, financial education. I mean, the finances are an important element. That's why I went to the most practical and most affordable route in front of me, and that was Cerritos College. In fact, let me tell you a story, digressing a little bit. Because I was part of the honors program, and my incentive for me to go to this extra level of pain is to make myself more marketable to going to UCLA or USC. I was given half a scholarship from USC. And I was, unfortunately, the timing when I graduated from Cerritos College, it was in the fall. And back then, for transfer students, the School of Engineering didn't like to transfer students in the spring because of the quarter system and the process. It didn't line up with the rest of the classes. So with all those constraints, I asked around and I looked at the most practical, affordable, and efficient university. And Cal Long Beach, like, totally got the highest points. 10 minutes away from my house, everything will be paid for. I would be living at home, no student debt whatsoever. If I just applied myself, got the good grades, that was going to pave the way for something else, and it did. So that's kind of how I approached it.
Okay, this next question is very similar, but it's a little different. What is the biggest obstacle for college students, or actually the biggest obstacle for college students seems to be the high cost of education. So how does an immigrant that is trying to save money and help family finances find the monies required to pay for college?
It's a challenge that I see, that we still see. I'll say that, wow, it is kind of impossible to find an answer, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But I put myself, but Antonio, you just did that. Take yourself 20 years ago. The salary, we're talking about $4 an hour, right?
Yeah.
People were still financially struggling and going through all these problems. I think that don't lose hope. Do not be afraid of trying. Look for help, look for resources. I know that nowadays Cerritos College continues with these great programs, the EOPS program, free college for whoever is willing and able and has a good grade. So yeah, there's still good resources out there. Luckily, we live in the best country in the world that still believes that to continue to be the best country in the world, they have to educate their people because they will benefit from an educated workforce. Just like they're benefiting from all my taxes now.
Right. So, I'm just going to quickly add to my quick experience because I went to Cerritos College around the same time you did. And when I was going to Cerritos College, my parents didn't have any money to give me. So, it was a matter of me working part-time, my parents trying to help me pay for whatever we could. And then, I focused on getting my grades as high as possible. And then when I transferred to UCLA, I researched all the possible, state funding and school funding I could find. And because of my grades at Cerritos College or my performance at Cerritos College, UCLA basically found me some free grants that I didn't have to pay back, and it basically paid for my entire usage. I mean, my entire usage education was paid for. So I ended up. I mean, again, it was like you said, being resourceful, and I think you just have to work really hard. This is just one thing, one suggestion, but work really hard to find the resources you need or that are out there because there are resources. And
Yeah, thank you. And
yeah,
that is exactly that's how it happened to me. There was a formula. Your grade is your ticket for success, your GPA, and that will open the door for scholarships. Be resourceful, ask for internships, paid internships in the summer. That will be a good way to save money for and get some experience for the job that you want, the area that you want. And you don't have to go to a fancy, expensive school. I was told that if uh, a big percentage of success is how dedicated you are to learn. And if we maximize our resources and are very proactive, you are setting yourself for great success.
got it. Okay, I have one question here in Spanish, and so I'll read it in Spanish. You want to read it back, or you want to say it back in English? Feel free. But the question is, ¿de qué edad comenzó tu experiencia?
So my my experience, I could easily say, well, here in the U.S. at the age of 16 when I immigrated, but I think that I lived in Mexico in a port town in an area that was still kind of the other side of town, so with less advantages, very disadvantaged, and that kind of they gave me extra challenges and problems that needed to be solved. So I think that from an early age, I learned to be a problem solver,
Okay.
and that kind of prepared me, and that's how my little story began. And my curiosity factor later came along, and here in the U.S., you see more opportunities, you see resources that you never saw before. So it's like almost day and night, and it was very easy for me to quickly take advantage and see opportunities that I knew that a year before I was never going to have them because I was in a small little town with no resources. So that transition was like a perfect reset for me to focus and take advantage of the
Got it. Okay.
opportunities.
Cool. Got a couple more submitted questions to go through here, so I'll ask the next one. So this one is, where does the internal inspiration and drive to be the best at anything you do come from? Does it come from family values, cultural habits, a mentor, internal motivation, all of the above maybe? Yeah. So where does your drive and inspiration come from to be the best?
That's an interesting, very, very long question, but I like them all because I actually, where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, does it come from family values, cultural
I
habits?
I can give you a very human and psychological, and then more beyond that.
Sure.
But one of them is I like challenges. I challenge myself, and I believe, and then I realized that one of the biggest challenges is always to challenge ourselves, to be a better person in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And then we connect it to the spiritual side of things. I think that we all have a mission in life to be better human beings to each other, to be kinder and better. I mean, this is a challenge. And now, as a father of 4 children, I'll tell you that I am constantly challenged by 4 very unique personalities. And I see myself in each of my children because they're kind of copies of, well, obviously there's DNA in it.
Right.
So I cannot point them their little defects when I know that I'm doing exactly the same thing. So that's what kind of allows me to be a better example for them.
Okay. That's a great for your personal. Now let's talk about that similar kind of question in the professional context. But the question is this: what is the biggest challenge in your career field at the moment?
Oh, now, I have an interesting challenge because I am, like we call it, a jack of all trades. I like all possibilities, all things. I really love my job. Right now, I am a manager in a department, and I work with very highly super smart, devoted engineers, and they're specialized in many different areas. I happen to be the manager, and and I really like what they do, but I can't I can I can focus in all those areas, right? So for me right now, the biggest challenge, I'll tell you, it's I have many good options in front of me for what the next thing in my career will be, and I'm having a hard time to decide, like, oh, shall I become this kind of specialist? Shall I become a journalist? Shall I go for leadership? Shall I do this? Shall I do that? And it's a little bit of a challenge because they're all interesting, and they will lead to very rewarding, still a very rewarding career. So um, I guess that the challenge is the fear of missing out, but I shouldn't say it's not necessarily a challenge. It's actually a great opportunity. But it's I guess when you like many things, it's hard to focus.
This next question, I'm going to challenge you a little bit myself now. Me being a journalist, I ask this question all the time. So, what would today's Antonio tell 16-year-old if you could go back in time with that flux capacitor and talk to 16-year-old Antonio? What advice are you giving him? What are you giving your younger self to advice? What's the future look like for you?
If I go
If you go back in
back
time and talk to a 16-year-old version of yourself,
a
what do you tell what are you telling yourself?
old version of myself.
What are you telling yourself?
Um, I think I know. It's not gonna be. It's actually not gonna be academic. I'll say, do all those things that you're doing, but mm, be less critical, or what would be another way to say it? It's a very good question. I'm trying to find the right answer, but I know. I guess on the personal level is that celebrate the little things.
Mm-hmm.
I never did. I was focusing on the next task. I will get one thing done and go to the next one because I'm gonna run out of time. I'm gonna run out of resources. Celebrate that things. Look around you and with your family, and be kind to each other because yeah, deadlines and things are important. Enjoy the early days of time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another word that is just escaping myself. Oh, don't take myself too serious. I guess I think that kind of covers probably the other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
I was very rigid into going to the next thing, and I don't recall. So yeah, I recall that it was just very push forward, get it all done, and no time to kind of enjoy the moment in many times.
Right. Well, I hope we can definitely enjoy the moment now. And
Oh, definitely.
well, I would say you deserve it because not just looking at your resume, but also talking to you personally now. I mean, you've definitely earned what you have in life, and so I definitely speak on behalf of Cerritos College that we're proud of what you've done and definitely enjoy the labor, the fruits of your labor. You've done a great job. So congratulations on where you are so far, and many wishes to continued success and growth, and hopefully, your kids will be able to take your life and elevate it once they're fully grown.
Thank you so much for the opportunity for this platform, and it's a way for me to say thanks to Cerritos College. Thanks for the opportunities. I'm very happy to repeat that if it wasn't for the outreach going to the local schools, I would never be done anything.
Yeah.
Because they really planted the seed in my head, and that seed gave me curiosity, and that allowed me to see possibilities that I could have never imagined.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
amazing.
Thank you, Cerritos College.
Yeah, and thank you for your story and thank you for your perseverance. Matthew, did you want to add anything before we move on?
No, just thank you, Antonio, once again for being here tonight. We really appreciate you. And on a personal note, I've had the privilege of knowing Antonio and his wonderful family for about 6 years now, and all his siblings who also actually all went to Cerritos College and all have a really fantastic story about perseverance and getting through and continuing on in education and in life. And so thank you so much, Antonio, once again for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
Definitely.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And I would like to thank everybody who's been in attendance today. This is a great turnout today, so thank you for taking the time to listen to our conversation. This will be available in podcast format later, if not this week, by next week. Definitely pay attention to Cerritos College's social media outlets to find out when this is available again to re-listen to, if you want to hear it again. And so now I'd like to, before we do end it today, we're not done just yet. Would like to open it up to questions now. So does anybody, just open forum now, anybody have questions for Antonio directly, like to ask directly? Open forum now. Should I call on people? Here's one. We have one from Brianna. We're going to go. So Brianna's question is: do you ever feel like you missed out on your youth or early adulthood, such as spending time with friends or family, due to dedicating so much of your time to education, or do you feel like you balance it pretty well?
A very good question. I probably missed out on a few things, but when I put them in the balance, because at the end you make decisions and you prioritize, right?
Right.
So I knew that probably if I didn't really devote, I put all this effort, I was not going to be successful. So in the list of priorities, okay, do what it takes. And later, when things got better, of course, I was able to kind of dial back and have a better lifestyle. And the concept of balance, work-life balance and work-life integration is something that we kind of, as we mature, we adapt and we evolve and we make it work, right? So, thanks to my wife, I was able to do that very successfully when I married her, and now we have 4 beautiful children, and they are my priority. I'll tell you that they are my priority, and they come first. And I can quit Northrop Grumman anytime to focus on my family. So my job doesn't define me. My career doesn't define me right now. So, but my family are very important, and they do define me at the moment.
Got it.
So
okay.
having priorities straight really, really helps.
Got it. Okay. Got one. This is not a question. This is a comment from Giovanni. Thank you, Antonio, for being a great role model for everyone that would like to succeed in life, not only educational but on a personal level. Great job. So that's from Giovanni.
Oh, thank you, Giovanni.
And any other questions before I move on to some thank yous? If anybody's got a question, we got a few minutes left here. Give everybody a minute or two if anybody want to ask. I guess while we're waiting here, I do want to say some thank yous. Thank you to Antonio's colleagues who are watching here tonight from Northrop Grumman, and thank you to Antonio's friends and his family as well. So big thank you. So that's colleagues at Northrop Grumman, Antonio's friends, Antonio's family. Thank you all for being here tonight. One question from Austin Garcia: what was your favorite class, if you could remember?
I enjoy philosophy a lot.
Wait, I have to ask, who is your professor? Do you remember?
Oh, he retired. You probably had him, but he was the head of the department at that time, and he retired very shortly after that.
Was it Joseph Vandermortel? Does anyone ring a bell? Vandermortel?
Probably, but there were only like 2 professors. I mean,
it was small and male. Yeah.
So yes, 100% probably that was him. Wonderful individual.
You remember? Okay, philosophy. Was there a focus? Was it like Eastern philosophy or Greek philosophy?
That was the introductory philosophy, old Western philosophy. Our classical.
Okay.
Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all the way to the present.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
But of course, engineering and history. Yeah. I like learning. I wasn't a good reader until I found a purpose and a reason why I needed to read. And philosophy got me hooked, and history got me hooked. So I kind of improved my vocabulary that way.
Cool. Well, if anybody else doesn't have any questions, I would say we reached the end of our conversation. This was great, and I definitely want to thank you personally just for chatting, because I love doing these monthly discussions because I learn a lot about people, and so you've definitely given me some good stuff to learn from and implement my own life. So thank you for all your insight for myself. And so continue doing what you're doing. And like I said, we're all proud of you.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to be paying more attention to these sessions. They're great. I want to hear and learn from others as well. So I'll be part of your audience in the near future. Appreciate the invitation.
Really appreciate it. Well, on behalf of Matthew and everybody else at Cerritos College at the Foundation, thank you for attending. Thank you, Antonio, for taking time out to chat with us today. And we're looking forward to our next Alumni Journeys conversation next month. Matthew, I'll get back to you to finish it off.
Yeah, thank you again for everyone tonight for being here. We really appreciate you. I always say that I know that you all have choices on what to do with your time, and we really appreciate the fact that you spent some time with us tonight talking with Antonio and learning about his journey from student to his current career. It's been a really fun evening, and I hope you'll continue to join us.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Antonio.
Take care. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Signing off here.